He just did you the biggest favor of all because Chip just wasted a draft pick. Will Anderson's not winning the Heisman. A defensive player's not winning the Heisman.
I agree with Tom.
Like, I voted for Will Anderson, and I get what you're saying, Chip, about like people writing about Will Anderson and being upset about it. It's called a vocal minority, a very, very small minority.
I think the voters who do not pay attention I think they got their feelings hurt. I think they're feeling a little.
They don't pay attention. How do they get their feelings hurt? They tune in for the last week and see which quarterback plays the best.
Yeah. Have you seen how many people have Heisman votes?
It's the vast majority of Heisman voters are not going to vote for a defensive player. They're not watching it unless Will Anderson has like 30 sacks. Nobody's going to be voting for him to win the Heisman. You just wasted a pick. Not saying you're wrong and that
I wanted him. I wanted him from a value perspective. I think I'm with Chip, ACC boys here.
Yeah.
What happened last year when Aiden Hutchinson took home most of the awards? Everyone's like, oh, I can't believe there's like a sympathy for Will Anderson that he got robbed this year. And I would say he might have just as good or better numbers this year. He'll have to do something special. I mean, you have to be a record-setting year. He'll definitely, I mean, that's almost a lock to be a finalist. But I think and Devontae Smith kind of broke it. Like, we hadn't seen a receiver in forever. I think voters specifically, I think they're looking for something different. Like, I think there's some quarterback fatigue. Don't get me wrong. It'll be a quarterback. I mean, it probably will be a quarterback. But if they stumble and, let's say Bryce Young has a decent year, but I don't think it's a horrible pick.
The problem with that theory is even if there is QB fatigue, wide receivers and running backs still exist, and they're going to vote for them over a defensive end every time.
They do.
Tom, you are definitely smarter than me, but your record.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I am about this.
your record of declarative statements has taken ding from time to time, because there was a Tom Fornelli declarative statement that a Group of 5 team would never make the 4-team playoff, and we saw Cincinnati, and so in the spirit of Cincinnati, I will at least believe that Will Anderson has a shot here. Now, you're right. Finalist is more likely than winner. The jump from finish as a finalist to win the daggum thing is very, very large, and even larger for a defensive player. But in the context of this race, I think it's absolutely possible. I feel better about him than some of the other names on the board. I'll say that much, and then I'll let Danny go next. Oh yeah, bud.
I just had a couple. I wanted to ask something. Do you think this requires a Bryce Young injury?
Possibly, but I mean, that's in play. I mean, it's not out of the total realm of possibility.
He's not a big man.
Yeah.
Because I obviously I like Bryce Young a lot. I've met him a bunch of times. I think he's really, really like awesome guy. I do not want him to get hurt. I don't think Will Anderson can win the Heisman if Bryce Young stays healthy, personally. Also, I look at Alabama's schedule. They will be double-digit favorites in all of their games this year, I project. Their closing stretch does not offer impactful games, most likely. At LSU, at Ole Miss, Austin Peay, and what could be the worst Auburn team in about a decade.
Did you see Will Anderson against Austin Peay? He's getting my Heisman vote.
You see what I'm saying? It's like, where's his Heisman moment
and pick 6 in that game?
Yeah.
Well, it's like the starting point is what we said at the top of the show, which is often we have seen these preseason Heisman favorites at the end of the season. They're not in the conversation. And so if these big brand names aren't there, then Heisman voters will be looking for options, and best defensive player on a national championship contender who was 4th place in the voting a year ago with a whole bunch with a vocal minority, but at least, some push behind him. I think that would be the
black room at the Athletic.
But that's the path. The path is the easy quarterback options aren't there. Voters have to work a little bit. And if you have to work a little bit, then the foundation has been laid to consider Will Anderson as the best player in college football.
I think he'd have to break Derek Thomas's track record. He has to get 10 more than he had this year.
In that case, the easy schedule might work.
Right. That's what I'm saying. He could rack up 1 5-sack game, and then he's right in the mix. Let's go.
Unless they just pull him all the time, which if I'm Nick, I'm keeping that powder dry for the playoffs, assuming I think I've got the juice to get to the playoffs. Like, I don't want a Will Anderson injury with 5 minutes left in the third quarter of a game that I'm leading by 3 scores.